episode of Indieventure. My name is Rachel Watts, and today I'm joined by a puzzle expert. I found someone who can actually give us valuable insight on a genre of indie games, and that is Joseph Mansfield.
Hello, that's me. Hey Rachel, thanks for having me.
Hello. So me and Joe work at Thinky Games together, where you essentially listened to the podcast and found me.
Yeah.
I was like,
So I had heard the podcast, and Alan Hazelden has also listened to the podcast, and I think he listens even more regularly than I do.
Okay.
Yeah, and he
Love that.
had mentioned your name as somebody we should talk to about being an editor on the website, and that was a great suggestion because it worked out perfectly.
And that was like over a year ago now. And
Thinky
Games has come so far.
So far. It was just a little baby back then. And now
it's just such a little baby.
Now it's like an annoying toddler.
Yeah. Not giving... by the way, this episode is about puzzle games, if you haven't guessed. I should have said that. This episode is all about puzzle games. Yes, Joe is the most... I just feel like I was a babe in the woods when I first joined Thinky.
Interesting.
I was like, I enjoy puzzle games. I'm really into puzzle games. And then I met you and Corey, who's also a Thinky gamer. And I was like, oh, I have no clue. I'm out of my depth.
We're pretty immersed in the space.
Yes.
Although, there's bits of the kind of thinky space that I don't really know that much about either. Especially if you go a bit outside of the puzzly stuff, like the strategy games, tactics games, I really know very little.
Sure, right.
I've never played a Professor Layton game. Maybe that's a terrible thing to admit. I don't know. There's definitely gaps in my knowledge. But then I think where I do have a fair bit of experience is some of the smaller, very niche, targeted at almost at people who making puzzle games as well.
Yes,
and I've played
for sure.
lots of those kinds of games that tend to be very, very intricate and deep and difficult, very difficult as well.
Intense.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So before we get into all that, just a recap of the episode, we're going to be talking about puzzle games. I'm going to ask Joe what your favorite puzzle games are, how you got into puzzle games, and also some of your favorite puzzle games from this year that you've played. Doesn't have to come out just what you've been playing recently, and then we'll end with hyperfixations. So yeah. Speaking of puzzle games, and speaking of you, let's start off with how you got into puzzle games. What is your lore, your origin story?
Sure. What happened? It's interesting. It's hard to know where to begin. I mean, when I was a kid, now when I think back, there were things when I was a kid that were signs that I would be interested in, Thinky games and puzzle games. Particularly, I loved mazes. I loved video games as well. I had when I was really young, one of the things I used to do is anytime I'd go somewhere new, I'd my parents bring this up. Anytime I go somewhere new, I'd follow the pipes around and see where they go. Where does this pipe go? I had an obsession with pipes and where they would go, and you open this cupboard and the pipe goes through there, and then where's it go after that? Oh. Anyway, which is such a, I guess it's connected to mazes and stuff. But I guess as a kid though, and as a teenager, I kind of played lots of different types of games. Grew up on mostly Nintendo games. Nintendo 64 was a major part of my childhood. We had a SNES as well.
Oh my god!
I basically had all the Nintendo stuff. Loved Mario 64 and Ocarina
That's so
of Time,
cute,
etc. Also was into PC gaming with Half-Life and Counter-Strike. I played all sorts of stuff. Then I guess amongst all that, there was I did also games like Choo-Choo Rocket is a puzzle game on the Dreamcast that I really liked at the time. So there were definitely there's little bits of puzzle gaming in there for sure. Then I kind of had a period where I wasn't playing that many games that much, especially during uni. And
sure.
I don't know. What was I doing? I can't even remember what I was doing. But somehow I just okay, so I had the trajectory of like, oh, I grew up on Nintendo games, and it was like, oh, but AAA games were becoming a bit like samey, so I started playing more indie games, and then during uni, even I started to feel a little bit similar about indie games, as like
you weren't
like treading
working
the same
and
ground
studying at uni,
sure,
yeah, instead of playing video games,
which is probably not true.
Can't relate to that at all.
A certain sample of it. But eventually, I just happened to start playing some more like some puzzle games.
Yeah.
Like so I began kind of with The Witness, Steven Sausage Roll, Cosmic Express.
Really?
A bunch of other games. Snakebird around then. So this would have been around 2016. Yeah. Yeah, it was a good way. It was a good way to get into it, I think. It was like a really good way of being like exposed to that whole scene and learning. There was definitely an element of learning to enjoy some of them as well. Especially, so the one I think about that with was Steven Sausage Roll.
So hardcore puzzles. Yeah. We're just putting it out there. You've just named some of the hardest puzzle games.
Absolutely. So I definitely had that feeling as well. So I was just interested in it, and so I started playing it. And I guess a bit of context, Steven Sausage Roll. It's an indie Sokoban game, so you're like pushing blocks around on the grid. But in this particular case, the blocks are sausages.
Right, that's the one I was talking about specifically when you were. I was like, that game, I couldn't even get. I remember trying it and
it's so silly.
Like, it's not for me.
But you have to like, you've got this fork that's in front of your character, and you spin the fork around, and you have to push the sausages to the grill on the grills, and then you finish the puzzle when all the sausages are like perfectly cooked.
Yes.
And so it's a Sokoban game, and I hadn't really been into Sokoban games at the time at all. That's a good. I have no idea. I don't know if I would have known the term. I'm not sure. And so something I definitely had with that game was I started playing it, and it felt like I couldn't do anything I wanted to do, and I was getting stuck constantly. It's like I was like tied up or whatever, and unable to like do anything easily.
Did you even know what a Sokoban game was when you played it?
I played a bunch of that game, and say a bunch of the game. I didn't even finish the first area of the game, and then I gave up on it.
Same.
Then, like probably a couple of months later, I was like, no, I'm going to go back to Steven Sausage Roll and try and finish it, because I was hearing so much about like how well designed it was, and I was just interested in that from a design perspective. So I went back to it. And then committed and finished it. And then the funny thing with Steven Sausage Roll, I don't think I've ever done this with any other game, is that as soon as I finished it, I played it again from the beginning. I was like, it was just so cool. I had to go all the way back and play it through. And yeah, it's a really good game. There's a reason it's like well regarded in the kind of thinky space.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's an interesting comparison.
Yeah. Yeah. I do find this kind of like this take interesting, because it's almost like the friction of the game made you want to play it more, and I do find that a lot of times. And when I say friction, I just
felt
mean,
like playing Steven Sausage Roll was
in terms of understanding a puzzle game and what it wants from you. I just find with puzzle games that are so unique. Games, with other video games I've played, there's not so much,
because
maybe
I felt like I
Souls-likes,
came out of
but
it with
it's just so wonderful
just
within the puzzle space to be like, I hate this thing. It's besting me. I don't understand it. I need to play more.
How to look at a puzzle.
It's just such a unique thing to puzzle games.
See the kind of the techniques of how to get through it without hitting those walls. And I think if I hadn't played that game, I'd still be feeling a lot of friction with puzzle games. But having played it, it sort of opened up the possibility of playing more puzzle games, because I just had those techniques now. And one of the interesting things about playing it, so as I said, I finished the game and then played it again. One of the interesting things about doing that was that playing it through the second time, I felt like I'd like leveled up in some way. Like, I guess I'd I guess yeah, I guess I was solving the same puzzle, so I kind of knew the answers, but it's still, there was this like I understood things a bit better. Like, yeah, I could look at, yeah, I could exactly,
Yes.
exactly. I could look at things in the level and go like, oh, yeah, I understand why that's there and why, like, what I'm supposed to interpret from that. And
Oh my god! You unlocked something.
oh yeah,
You understood. You were Neo. You were Neo in the Matrix.
sure, yeah.
And this is another thing I love about puzzle games as well, is that I do think with a lot of game systems, they're hidden from you purposefully. When you play a video game, you don't know why it feels good, it just does. But with a puzzle game, everything is
Yeah, that's totally a thing.
It's just
yeah.
normally
Sometimes
on one
people
screen,
find that.
you're looking
I guess
at
there are,
it.
there are
And
times
so
when
it's
developers
the
can be cheeky
conversation
as well
between
with
you and the
puzzles and
developer
stuff.
is more intimate because
which
of
I
that.
always really love.
And
So
I
think
just
some
feel
people
like,
find it a bit
and
annoying.
I just,
It's like,
again,
why do
you
have to be
don't
cheeky?
get
No,
that.
it's
Like
it's a
with
fun
any
thing
other
to-
genre, but puzzle games,
to
it's a
have
very
like a prank
unique
played on you
relationship
by the
because
developer. At least I find.
whenever I solve a puzzle game, like
and
a
I guess
puzzle in a
that's
game,
tied into,
I do
like,
feel like
I
me and the
think
developer,
probably
I'm
puzzle
like,
games went
I
too
see
far
what
in
you
this
did
direction, but there
there.
was a kind of
I see
trend
what you
towards,
did.
like, non-verbal communication. The idea of like trying to convey
Yes,
your mechanics and ideas without like giving them a wall of text that explains how the game works or whatever. I think that went a bit too far in one direction, and it started to pull back. And now puzzle games are being a bit like, no, the non-verbal communication is good, but it also doesn't mean you don't have to ever have a tutorial or ever have a button prompt on the screen or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. So I think that the thing that's interesting about puzzle games for me is that
We've definitely had this conversation because I remember I was
the
talking to you about Cocoon and I was like,
broader
wow,
genre
it's
of
just
Thinky
really
Games,
great how
which
the
I
game
would
teaches. And you
say
were like,
doesn't just
I
include puzzle
hate
games,
that
but
sometimes when the
I think
game
it's a good
doesn't
name for it
tell
because, like,
you.
the thing that's
And
interesting
that's
about
true
these
when the
games
game
is,
doesn't communicate
yeah,
its
the developer
rules.
puts something on
And in
screen
puzzle
for
games, this is
you,
so important.
puts it
In a
into
way
your
that you
brain,
can
and
understand.
then most of the
It's
gameplay like happens in your brain
and
rather
that
than like
communication
in
breaks
the game
down between you and the
itself.
developer there.
And then all you have to do once you've like figured it out in your brain is like input your answer or whatever. And it's like, that's really interesting that they've got to like communicate something into your brain. It's got to bounce around a whole bunch to try and figure out the solution and then go back.
Sure.
And the reason why like communication is so important is because you can't solve stuff without having all the information that you need to be able to solve it. And that's one great way to make a puzzle game not very good or fun is to like hide information, because then the player's just gonna be annoyed. So, well, I couldn't have known that because you hid it from me. So yeah, it's kind of in a puzzle game's best interest to sort of just lay it all out. Be like, no, these are the rules. This is what's in the level. There's nothing like invisible in the level that you can't see. Just like let you work with that information. Yeah, not just like throwing stuff at you that you wouldn't have expected. Oh, but the fun thing is puzzle games can still do that, right? They like, one of the things I would associate with them is like the aha moments or whatever, which can partly be just like, aha, I figured out the solution to this puzzle, but can also be like, can be a kind of twist, a kind of like,
the satisfaction comes from solving it,
like
not
that,
from.
Or I didn't
There's a big twist I didn't know about. Wow, it's like no.
Some of my favorite games do that, and so it's the interesting thing there is like, how do games do that, but in a fair way? Because like, you don't want people to go, oh, I just discovered the thing. If I'd known that thing ages ago, I would have done things all completely different. What you want to do is reveal it in a way where, like, they feel leveled up and like they can like now tackle something else or whatever that they couldn't tackle before. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Right, sure. Yeah.
So I guess this ends up tying into, I don't remember the exact ordering here, but there were two things that sort of happened next. One is that I joined the Thinky Puzzle
and so
Games
Steven's
Discord,
sausage roll for you was definitely like,
which is,
but that was you
slightly,
leveling up,
confusing.
like
it's not the thinkygames.com
and so
Discord.
where did you go from? Where did you go from there? Like, was there any other big like puzzle games or just Thinky Games?
I joined there
that you can remember early on that you were like, this is the direction I'm going. Like, this is my genre.
And the other thing that I started doing was I started my YouTube channel, Joe Plays Puzzle Games.
Right, sure.
I'm just gonna plug it every sentence I say for the rest of it.
Yes,
the skill of patience.
I was going to plug that at the end, but we do it all the way through. No, but like honest to God, you're the how do I say this?
It is interesting. Yeah, lots of people say that.
Not only solve puzzles, but do it in front of a camera and explain your process is on a different level, Joe. I've seen a lot of your videos and it's so mesmerizing.
Is that being stuck is like not a problem?
It can never be me. Like I literally, if I play a game in front of the developer or the PR, I sweat and I panic so much. So I can't. And you stream as well. You do this live.
That's not always true. Like
props to you.
One of the games I played at the moment, it's called Ligo, Ligo, and it's also a Sokoban game, very very hard. And there are some place like points in that game where it's like a really brilliant game. There's some points where my patience is wearing a little bit thin, because like there are puzzles that I just can't like. It's not even that I can't figure them out. It's that they are very complex, and I'm like, this is overwhelming. So I still get there, but then I guess I also have the like perseverance to stick to it until I get there. Even if you listen to those videos, you'll see me like losing my mind. There are videos on YouTube where I'm losing my mind because the puzzles are complex. There's certainly videos. I can't remember specifically which ones, but you could find them. Yep.
God.
The reason I started the YouTube channel was because I was interested in basically that thing you mentioned, that communication between designer and player, and I wanted to. I already
see. I can't. You're such a calm. I couldn't imagine you losing your
channels
mind.
That I mentioned there are like Alex Dina's channel, who he made a game last year called.
Right. So yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you. You did the YouTube. You started your YouTube channel,
and he has.
And you joined the Discord. The Thinky
so I was watching
Discord.
him. And another channel, Keith Ballard, his channel. So I was like watching them, and they like played a lot of puzzle games, and it kind of inspired me to be interested in like capturing that experience. It's like an interesting thing to capture. And I guess the other unique thing about a lot of puzzle games is that you can only really play them once. So it almost feels like if you don't record it, this like magical thing that's happened is just like disappearing into the ether. Yeah. Whereas if I record it, it's there forever, and other people can see how it went. Yeah, it's there forever. Exactly. Basically, I played a bunch of those puzzle games that I mentioned earlier that got me into it. And then I basically didn't play any for a while because I was like, I don't want to play them until I've set up like a recording, like until I figured out how to record them.
Yeah.
So I had like a gap where, yeah, exactly. And the one game that made me absolutely start recording was
that
I just
moment.
Had to get around to playing it was Return of the Obra Dinn.
You were hoarding them until you were ready. Oh, we love Return of the Obra Dinn here on this channel.
Such a good game.
So good.
It is fantastic, and that was the first game I played on my channel. So
yeah.
And from there, I mean, it'd be impossible to list every game that I've played, but from there, you can just look at my playlist on my channel and see every game I've played, which is a lot of games.
So this is what our timelines converge, because for me, I wasn't a puzzle girly growing up. I wasn't good at maths. I just don't think I liked logic-based games until I was older and I liked mysteries. And so... but again, I played Return of the Obra Dinn and was like, I did it all on my own. I solved every single person's identity, and I was so proud of myself. And I just think that game, it just really made me confident that I was like, actually, I should return to this genre. And so from there was a very nice and gentle starting point for mystery games, but also then going into the puzzle space. Any puzzle game that has had a narrative, I was like, I'm absolutely there. Her Story was another one that was really early for me in terms of like thinking about clues and like writing things down. And then I'm still sort of not like, if there's me and Joe were this will be out but when the Thinky Direct gets announced, but me and Joe are hosting it, and we were looking at a bunch of the trailers, and anytime there was like a grid or something, Joe was like, yes and I'm the opposite. That still intimidates me, but I would definitely give it a go, knowing like Obra Dinn was like, it taught me, it was my teacher, and I'm so happy it was that for you as well.
One of the things that I found interesting, like one of the pieces of feedback we get at Thinky Games fairly often, is somebody saying, oh, I liked this game, and I like this game, and I like this game, but like before now, I didn't think of them as the same kind of game. But now that they've like discovered the concept of Thinky Games, they're like, oh, then now they realize why they like all these things for the same reason.
Yes.
And I guess that is kind of the hope with thinkygames.com, is getting like bringing people in through Return of the Obra Dinn, or through Tunic, or through Steven Sausage Roll, if that's what they happen to play first, or whatever. Sure. And then discovering like, oh, there's actually a similarity between that and all these other great games that we're calling Thinky Games. And I think one of the interesting things there is that you mentioned you were kind of drawn towards the like narrative heavy puzzle games. And that's the thing, is like there's some games that basically have no narrative, and there's some games that are like maybe more narrative than they are puzzle. But there is still a core to them that is kind of the same. And if you enjoy that kind of mystery and the unknown and the solving and the like wrapping your head around something, that is actually common to all of them. Whether it's a really tricky Sokoban or a very friendly like detective game or something like that. I think there's a commonality there, and hopefully it encourages people to explore more.
But that's the thing. It's like I do see Thinky being in kind of the same space as Cozy. Like Cozy isn't really describing a game, it's a player response, how you respond to a game.
That's interesting, yeah.
And so it's like, oh, I feel cozy playing this game, it's a farming sim. I feel cozy playing this game, it's a puzzle game. But the response of the player is what's important. That's a really good point, and I think Thinky falls into that category. Lots of things can be Thinky, but in terms of like how you engage with it, that's what makes something a Thinky game. And because I'm sure some people might look at like some very like hidden object puzzles, right? I think maybe some people might sniff at that and be a bit like, well, no, I don't think that is, because you're just literally looking at a screen and trying to click stuff. But it is, if you're engaging your brain with the game, it definitely is. And so that's what I love about it. It's so it's friendly. I like how accessible it's. We're like, everyone can join us. You don't just have to be like a genius. I'm here, so you definitely don't have to be a genius. Like, it's so, I love that about it, the term.
Like, one of the things that, because I have answers that I use if somebody asks me, like, what is a Thinky game or whatever? And I have various different answers depending on context. But one of them is just like, does it make you go, and like scratch your chin or whatever? Like, that is like, it's a bit of a vague answer, but I think it captures the feeling, the vibe of playing a Thinky game. Yeah, if it gets you like really like scratching your head and like pondering over a choice or a solution or whatever, and like it's also coupled with the idea of it like the game like not putting too much like time pressure on you or like dexterity or whatever. If it does those things and it just kind of makes you think deeply about some interesting problem, then it's probably a thinky game.
Yeah, 100%. So like we've been throwing out a lot of thinky games and a lot of puzzle games. Do you want to kind of talk about your favorites? Like what are your go-tos? Sure. Like it can be something you're playing at the moment, or like again, Obra Dinn, my beloved, is my number one.
I mean, Obra Dinn is definitely way up there with my favorites. It's hard to pick favorites, but like if I just list a few, I guess. So one that immediately comes to mind is Outer Wilds.
Yeah,
absolutely love Outer Wilds. Some people say like it's not. I guess like it can get like hyped up as like very puzzly, but and it is, but it's also very exploration heavy. It's about like exploring a solar system and uncovering like the little hidden things that are hidden amongst the planets and understanding what went on there with the past civilization that's there. And I think of it as a detective game, basically. Even though you're not actually a detective, you are like trying to find clues and follow leads and see where they take you. And then sometimes you have to make a like, oh, so this thing seems to imply that if I do this at this time on this planet, something might happen. And those things are just like really satisfying to solve. It's also very like narratively interesting as well. Like I think if I'm going to like really, really, really love a game, it having like interesting thinkiness and also like kind of looking beautiful or having like an interesting narrative, whatever. Definitely having all the things together is like better for me. But I'm also like happy to play like more abstract games as well. A Monsters Expedition is a excellent game.
Oh, that's a good pick for sure.
So that's a Sokoban game where you push logs around and you roll them into the water, and then you have to kind of build bridges to go between these islands. It's just such a well-made Sokoban game. It's also interesting because it's kind of open world in that there are puzzles that you can kind of solve in multiple ways, and then depending on how you solve it, you'll branch off in different directions. And then you might want to come back later and solve the other branch. And it has a little bit of I guess we'll end up talking about this term probably. It has a little bit of a Metroidvania thing going on.
Yeah, we'll put a pin in that. We'll definitely return to that.
In that you'll learn some mechanics as you go out throughout the game, and then if you come back to an earlier part of the game and apply those mechanics, you'll realize you can get to this other island that you didn't realize you could get to, where there might be there's like these snowmen in the game that if you go and hug them, that counts as like a bonus puzzle that you've solved. And so getting to the snowmen is like the kind of extra challenge, which you have to kind of explore a bit outside of the main path to find.
Actually, very quickly, speaking of a Monster Expedition, do you mind telling our listeners what a Sokoban game is? Because when I started at Thinky, I did not know. I had no clue. And we have been throwing it around, and I just wondered if some people might not actually know what a Sokoban game is.
Okay, so the original... there's a game called Sokoban from the 80s, which is Japanese for warehouse keeper.
Did not know that.
There you go. And that game, in its like, I guess that's the purest form of a Sokoban, is literally you're in a little grid-based puzzle. So it's top down, it's 2D. You're in a grid-based puzzle, and there are boxes that you have to push. And when you push a box, it always moves to the next cell in the grid. You can't push it halfway between two cells or anything like that. And you can only move like up, down, left, and right. You're on the grid. And the goal of each puzzle is just to push the boxes onto certain spaces in the level. It's like you're a warehouse keeping. You're trying to put the boxes in the right place or whatever. So that's the original Sokoban game. And then particularly over the last like decade or so, and there's been other games, between Sokoban and now, but there's been a kind of a resurgence of the genre, where people are making similar kinds of games. I guess I would think of it as they're grid-based. Again, you move up, down, left, right, and you're typically pushing objects on that grid, but they might not be boxes. So in a Monsters Expedition's case, they are logs, and when you push a log, when it's on its side, it will keep rolling until it falls into the water. And there's all sorts of games that are like I would call Sokoban games, but they have like quite different mechanics. Like I'm thinking of a game called Headlong Hunt, which I really love. It's a fantastic game.
What's that?
In Headlong Hunt, you there's a creature that you're trying to catch. You're like a researcher in the Arctic or something like that, and the creature, when it sees you, will move in the opposite direction until it hits a wall, and it makes a funny like bonk sound when it hits the wall. And so you've got to like move around to kind of scare the creature so it gets to your like, net. Which you might think, well, you're not really pushing an object around there, but there are also like blocks and things that you push around. So you might want to push a block into a certain position to make it so that the creature bonks into that block, and then you can move them somewhere else. So yeah, there's like all sorts of Sokoban games that at least have the same kind of framework, but what they do with the mechanics can be very, very different. Like almost to the point that that's one of the interesting things about playing lots of Sokoban games is that they all feel like different games to me. It's not like I'm playing. I think in other genres you could like. I mean, this is probably not totally accurate, but like. You can play games that are like in the same like subgenre or whatever, and they do have a similar feeling to them.
Yeah.
Like you know what you're going to get, you know how it's going to feel, but because the rules of the Sokoban game can be completely different, it feels like you're doing something completely unlike another Sokoban game that you played before. Yeah, so there's a lot of variety in the space. But yeah, I guess it's and I mentioned earlier that it can feel. This is the thing that I like. If anybody's listening and they want to get into these games. You like I did with Steven Sausage Roll, you might have to push through that feeling at the beginning of like, I don't know how to even work with these games. Like it's like the game's fighting me.
A really, really core memory for me is like us two being at what was it, EGX? Was it EGX?
Yeah, EGX, Comic-Con. It was both. It was
EGX,
Comic-Con and EGX.
And so me and Joe were there on behalf, like representing Thinky Games. We had a bunch of computers set up. I think you know the story I'm going to tell. We had a bunch of computers set up, and then the idea was to get like encourage people to come over and play different Thinky games on each computer. And a lot of these, a lot of them were kids. And I remember putting on, just seeing what kids would like be drawn to and
like gravitate towards,
and the Monsters Expedition was one of them, and I was like, sure. I think it might be a bit difficult for kids. Like I don't know, I mean I kind of struggled with it a bit later on, but maybe it's the early levels. And the best thing was seeing again with this game, kids come over, it's got bright colors, it looks really enticing, it looks like a storybook. And just watching them, staring at the screen and watching them work their way through the game's first couple of puzzles. And it's just like, these games are so magical. Oh God, that sounds like, but you know what I mean? I was like, there's no way that kid's gonna do it. I was watching him and I was like, you go, exactly. You can do it.
Some people just like, some young kids just like, they look at the game and they just get into it and they understand it. One of my favorite memories from that event was there was the young girl that came in.
Oh yes.
I think she came in every day of the conference.
Yes. She asked for you. She asked
for me. But, she was really young.
Yeah.
And she wanted to play a Monsters Expedition. Just to be clear, not everybody played a Monsters Expedition. We had lots of other games.
We had other stuff, but it's just it was popular.
Yeah. And she was really young, and to the point where, if she had just sat down with it and hadn't had any help at all, she probably would have struggled. But basically, I just sat next to her and like said things like, "Oh, like where do you think this log needs to go?" Or like, or even if she like didn't really get what to do, I would just tell her which moves to make. I'd be like, "Oh, just like go up here and then go over here and then do this." And then the interesting thing, because like she came every day, like by day 3, she was like solving puzzles on her own.
You trained her.
It was really cool to see that.
You have a protege.
Exactly. It was like, it's just interesting to see that just with a little bit of help, people can get over that barrier. That's also ties into the fact that a lot of games, a Monsters Expedition included, have started like leaning more into having hint systems.
Yes,
And I think that's such a good thing, because there is that, we don't want to, like when I was a kid, I used to play, this is an embarrassing thing. Makes it sound like I was a lonely child with no friends. But I used to have a chessboard and a chess book. I never got good at chess, but in the chess book there was a tutorial game, and I would just play that tutorial game against myself. And I like it. I guess I would do that with video games as well. Like I'd love to get like I'd go on game FAQs or on I'd get the proper official guide, and I'd like follow along with it, and I'd like look at the map and like see where I have to go. And I think for young kids, like having that assistance to help them, like, because they're going to get enjoyment over just like exploring that thing.
Yeah.
And anything you can do to help them explore it, I think is a good thing. And that's why I think having more hint systems and all that kind of stuff is good.
I love a hint, and I mean hint. I don't want the solution. Yeah. I just want a little nudge in the right direction from the game. That's all I want. And, you know, some puzzle games like that philosophy and others don't. And, you know, in that case, you just go onto the Thinky Games Discord and you're like, help me, please.
Exactly. There's always people that will help. That makes me think about Can of Wormholes, which won our Game of the Year award last year.
Yes.
Because that has sort of like revolutionized hint systems a little bit, in that it's in the game it was called Gain Insight, and it's now people call it that, a Gain Insight hint system. Ooh. And the way it works is if you are in a puzzle and you're stuck, you can go to the menu and click on Gain Insight.
Right.
And it will give you a simpler version of the same puzzle.
Oh, I love that. Oh my God.
And often the simpler version is like to really guide you into like it doesn't spoil the realization, but it really guides you into the realization you need to have.
Yeah, it
really
puts
nice.
your brain in the right space in which you can be like, right, I now have learned this. I can apply it to this. Oh, that's smart. That's a lot of work though. Good for them.
Oh, yeah. Basically, every puzzle has another puzzle to go with it. And so I know people who have played that game and basically, once it got difficult enough, just done the Gain Insight thing for every puzzle, but they still got enjoyment out of the game because they still got those insights. Just their own way.
Oh, that is so great. Oh my God. I honestly love that kind of new-ish trend in puzzle games because there have been a lot of puzzle games that I've completely, or Thinky Games, bounced off of because I think for me, Case of the Golden Idol, if it didn't have a hint system, I love Case of the Golden Idol.
I still don't know what the hint system does in Golden Idol.
Oh, that sounds like a brag.
It wasn't meant to be a brag.
Humble brag. But the thing about that is I used it early on and then didn't use it again because I was like, I understand the game. Like,
it got you into the right zone. Interesting.
So it was almost like I know what the game wants from me, but there are just some things that I'm getting, maybe I'm not thinking about it correctly, or I have not understood the rules in a certain way. And so the hint system is very much just a little delicate push. But after that, it was great. I was like, I feel equipped. I feel good, except for with the Rise of the Golden Idol, I still haven't finished the game's final puzzle. I'm not even the DLCs because it's so. And that's the other thing as well. I'm very much like I want to do this on my own. So I'm setting it aside and I will return when I am hydrated, when I am fed, hydrated in the right frame of mind, because you just won't get a high like that from at least for me. I just can't get it. It's the same. It's kind of a serotonin hit that's like unlike anything else. And so for me, to be honest, Case of the Golden Idol was another one where loved the story, but also the game's more deduction elements. Oh, am I going to get told off for that?
There's no telling off. I never tell
No, you don't. You're very, very gentle. But those systems were very, those.
I love how we're not even going.
Should we? Well, what was it? It was the difference between detective and deduction games.
Sure. We can go into
it. I would love to, because I do think this is interesting because, and just to bring us into it, and maybe that we can go into Metroid Brainia from here. Another thing about the puzzle space, and this is in every sort of video game space, is a certain lexicon or language and puzzle games definitely have their own.
I I think we should add a glossary to thinkygames.com.
I agree. Because, we talk about soccer band games. I know that's not like a term, but it is kind of like a terminology now. It's not just a game anymore.
Fortunately, that is now explained on the database. If you go if you find the list of best soccer band games, it says at the top what it means.
For me, Zack-like was something new as well. Did not know what a Zack-like was. Zachtronics, for those who don't, they make really great games, and now...
So I guess generally I'm not a huge fan of like debating like whether a genre name is a good... Like if people are using a name, just use the name. Like some people do dislike certain genre names because it's not clear from the name like what it means, right?
Okay.
Like how could you know what that means
unless
without,
you
asking somebody or researching or whatever? But my feeling is kind of like, well, A, you can't change what people are calling them, and B, that's what a lot of words are like.
Yeah,
like you sort of have to go and research a word.
I love that it's like, as long as it's not used in a weird way, like to exclude anyone. I just think it's like, it's just an inside almost nudge of like, oh, wink, wink, we understand, we get it. If I got a PR email and it's like, this is a Zack-like, I'd be like, excuse me?
Yes, exactly. That's the other thing, is that I think it helps build a community if you have the, like language that you use together and you share.
Yeah.
And I think the Thinky community wouldn't be the same if we were saying, no, you can't call it a Zack-like. You have to call it factory automation engineering game or whatever you want to call. I don't know what you'd even call it, but
So do we want the detective deduction?
To be clear about why I even ever bring this up, it's not that I think there's like I think when people refer to detective games and then they refer to deduction games, they are talking about the same kind of game. I'm not even saying they're different kinds of games.
Yeah, this is all in jest, by the way. This is not a beef or anything.
So the reason it's just a kind of preference that I have for why I would call them a detective game over a deduction game. And it's a bit of a pedantic thing, for sure.
I've definitely put you on the spot, and I love it.
It's a bit of a pedantic thing, but it's basically that deduction kind of has multiple meanings, and in the puzzle space, it has a very, very common meaning, which is its kind of mathematical meaning of basically a deduction is any logical statement where you can say, if X, then Y. Like if you know that if some condition X is true, then Y must be true. So like anything like that is like that. So you wouldn't just encounter that in a detective game. You would encounter that in a soccer band game. It would be like, if I need to get this log into the water here, then I need to have got it into this position before that. And that to me is a deduction. And I just think like, if you call detective games deduction games, you're using a term that isn't special to detective games.
What's his explanation? A detective game, because you deduce where the log needs to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I prefer to go with the detective game because it kind of, like for me, that kind of captures the feel of those games, is that you're kind of like gathering clues and doing here's another fun term, which is abduction, which is,
oh god, what is that?
Which is it's the process. Well, I mean, if you're an alien, it's abducting somebody, but it's not that. It is abduction is the process of coming up with an explanation for something you've observed.
Oh my god.
Like if you, the really common example is if you come, let's say you live with somebody and you go to your kitchen, you wake up in the morning, you go to the kitchen, and there's a half-eaten sandwich on the in the kitchen somewhere. You would abduce that your flatmates or whatever, maybe they were having a sandwich and they had to rush out to get to work and they left it on the thing. It's an abduction because you are like kind of conjuring the explanation. You don't know that it's certain. What could have happened is maybe somebody burgled your flat, made themselves a sandwich, and then ran off when they heard you waking up. There's like other exactly.
Sure.
There's other explanations. And so detective games tend to be they have a lot of abduction. You're looking at a bunch of things and going, well, what could explain this thing? And then you use Occam's razor to kind of go, well, there's the simplest thing that explains these things, which isn't always the right answer. Sometimes it's the more complicated thing that's the answer. Anyway, but basically, detective games, I like to call them that because they have the feeling of being a detective.
It does communicate
even if
something
you're not
different.
Necessarily a detective or whatever.
So going from that into Metroidvania, which I love as a term. I've seen people online be like, "What is this?" And I'm like, I love it. I really think it's.
Yeah,
I love it too.
I love it as well.
So yeah, I guess for those who aren't aware what a Metroidvania is, it's kind of a riff off Metroidvania, but instead of actually having physical objects to help you progress through different levels and the game world, you essentially acquire knowledge and information that the game kind of drips to you and to progress. And the kind of is the idea that you could have done everything from the beginning, but you just didn't know how or didn't have the knowledge to reach that solution. That can kind of materialize in different ways. So, but that essentially is a broad explanation of what it is. So yeah, Metroidvania, because you're using your brain instead of like a tool belt full of stupid gadgets.
Instead of your vein. Metroidvania. Yeah, if people want to, like, there's lots of great Metroidvania games.
So many.
And you can filter from the Thinky Games database by Metroidvania. Yes! Just plugging again. But if people want to really see what I think is a great example of it, like, it kind of really distilled, is the game Tokitori 2 Plus.
Right, which I've just learned about recently from you, from our list. So of Metroidvania games like Blueprints. So I'll link to that.
Yeah, it's such a cool game. It is, the reason I say it's like the most distilled version of a Metroidvania is that it very strongly has the Metroidvania structure of like a Metroid game where you go down some corridor and you go down an elevator and then you go down another corridor and you find a super missile launcher or whatever. And then you have to go back to earlier and then there's a door that you can now shoot with the super missile launcher. This is how it would work in a normal Metroidvania. Right. Tokitori 2, same structure. You go down a corridor, you don't really go down elevators, but it's similar. And you eventually get to a puzzle. I mean, you do lots of puzzles along the way as well. But then the puzzle will like teach you something that you didn't know about how the world works. and the way it does that is there's these creatures in the world that all respond to you in different ways. And the puzzles will teach you like how they respond to you. And then you'll be like, oh, so if I do that action in this particular situation near this creature, then that happens. So you go back along the corridor you just went down and you find one of those creatures and you realize, oh, I just need to set up the situation a certain way. And then you unlock, even though there's no physical door, you've unlocked a different passage to go down from that point onwards. And it's very satisfying. If you look at the game, you'll be like, this looks stupid. It's like looks like a child's toy with a.
It's
like
deceiving.
A chick. Yeah, it's very deceiving. But it's.
But that's what's so like satisfying about Metroidvanias is that there's this almost invisibleness to them. Like no screen or no puzzle layout will look the same twice once you've learned a different understanding of it. And so things like Void Stranger, a really big game from last year,
which I've not played
is a Sokoban, which, you know, and a Metroidvania in the fact that you are, at the beginning you're solving a bunch of Sokoban puzzles and you're having a great time, and then suddenly you learn all these different systems in which you go back to the same puzzle grids and you're like, oh, okay, I see you. Again, another nod to the developer. Yeah, so it's... And there's just, again, I think that that Metroidvania moment is not in other games. That's very specific to that genre. That feeling of like this invisible veil, a look behind the curtain of like, oh, okay, I thought this game was one thing, but actually it's a whole different beast almost.
Sure. Yeah, and that's interesting. Like some games do that, where the Metroidvania thing almost like makes you realize, oh, actually, there's a whole different game here entirely. Some games don't do that. I say Tokitori doesn't do that. It's more like once you've learned the knowledge, you just get to explore somewhere different.
Sure.
So kind of deeper into the game. But it's just it's a fascinating thing. And I think the reason it works so well with like puzzly games is that puzzles are about systems, and well, not always, but like a lot of puzzles are about systems, and a great way of like revealing some knowledge is to reveal some knowledge about the system that you're interacting with, the system that the puzzles are built in. And it's just a great, it's like discovering something that was always there, and if only you'd known how, but now you know, and now you can do this other thing. So I wouldn't call Steven Sausage Roll a Metroidvania, but it does have this thing of like you discover new mechanics throughout the game, but every mechanic feels like it was always there, and you just
so such a good way of describing it.
Yeah,
for sure. And I think because I do want to talk about like puzzle game communities as well, in terms of like, you know, this sharing of knowledge as well, and like hint systems, and with Metroidvanias and like sharing information. And like, what was it like for you as well? Like joining when you first joined, like not our Thinky Games Discord, like the Thinky puzzle, the original
games,
for you.
What was it like? I guess the other part of this story for me is that I'm also interested in making games, and so I think like part of it was I was like making games with Puzzle Script, which is a game engine for making like block pushing Sokoban games. It's a really cool engine for doing that. And it's like, it's just in your web browser, so you don't have to download anything or anything. You can just start making them. And so I was sort of getting into that community just to A, like talk about the games, and B, talk about designing puzzle games as well. And I guess I didn't have the feeling of like, oh, I don't understand any of this or what anybody's talking about. I just immersed myself in it and learned the lingo as it went. Lingo is another good game. Thinky Space. Just throw that out there. But yeah, just I guess the other thing is that because I started my YouTube channel, I then had an incentive to just keep playing more puzzle games.
Yeah.
And since I started my channel, which was a long time ago now, I have basically not played anything that isn't a puzzle game at all. Like, because whenever I play something, I'm like, well, I might as well record it.
And, girl, freelance. If I'm not making money off of this game, why am I playing it?
I don't make money off my. I wish I could, but it's paying
for
from the ads is awful.
Oh well. See, I ask you that because for me, what has been interesting coming into the puzzle space a bit later in life, is how this, as you said, people who love puzzle games also end up making them. And so some of the most wildest moments is I'll be chatting to you and Corey about like a puzzle game and being like, I need to check this information out. I wonder if we can get a key. And you're like, they're in the Discord, just ask them. And I'm like, excuse me?
Very common.
And you're like, yeah. Or like, maybe this other person will give us a key. And Corey's like, I've talked to him loads of times. We know each other. Like, I'll ask. I'm just like, oh my God. Like this community of people is so close knit. Like it's really great. And I love that.
That's very true. And that's happened a lot with Cami recently. So we hired Cami to help us with marketing stuff at Thinky Games. And she's been like doing some like streamer outreach. And she'll ask me like, "Oh, do you know about this streamer?" I was like, "Yeah, we've worked with that streamer before."
Oh, really?
We know all the not all of them really, but we know a lot of the streamers and influencers who are kind of in the puzzle space. So it's quite funny just being like, we know them. We talk to them sometimes.
There is this kind of like, because when you imagine like, even in the indie space, there is a barrier between player and developer. Like normally there's not that kind of communication happening, but because of the way puzzle games are played, I just think it's a lot more common to be like, oh yeah, this person, this developer played your game, loved it. Like, Every puzzle person I've interviewed, either for an article or whatever, has always kind of said, yeah, I've talked to this other really big puzzle person or this person. Like everyone seems to be there's just like a love and a sharing of resources, of information, of play testing. Like, and that's very unusual. That is unusual in our industry for that to be quite common.
Yeah, it's very nice to have that community for sure.
Yeah.
And like, I've learned a lot of like game design stuff and just about lots of interesting games that I wouldn't have discovered had I not joined the Thinky communities.
Yeah, it is. It's almost like I was quite shocked in terms of how intense kind of is the word I'm thinking of. Like, people really are passionate about puzzle games and will like, I mean, every time it happened on Twitter recently, someone was like, so I half remember this puzzle game that I played 10 years ago. I remember it was 2D. And then everyone's going to be like, right, we got to figure out what this is. Like,
it's basically a puzzle in and of itself.
Yes! Oh my God, that's exactly why.
So it's basically a detective game.
I saw you tweet underneath it, or whatever it is, Skeet. And you were like, can you tell us more? Because the Thinky community, we need to know more about this game.
We're trying to figure it out.
And I just think that is so indie. It's a very indie perspective of like, we're all just making something and enjoying things that we love. And there's not this divide. And there is an accessibility to it. And I've just really loved it.
And we're just trying to have fun.
We're just trying to have fun. So yeah, we have our own Discord now. Thinky Games has its own Discord, which I mean, God, the number of game recommendations I've gotten from there as well is ridiculous. My wish list. If you think listeners, if you think listening to Indieventure gives you a bunch of wish list stuff, you join the Discord and get even more. Like, my wish list is filled with very niche, like, oh my God, like, no shade with the puzzle community, but people will be like, this is the best puzzle game of this year, it's so interesting. And then someone will send me a link and it's literally like block graphics of like... Sure.
It's like programmer art.
Yeah, it's programmer art. And I'm like, okay. And you know what? Turns out they're correct. It is. Like, it's just so...
Yeah, exactly.
And I love that.
It is interesting because, like, I think one of the things that drew me to kind of puzzles in general was, and it's what got me out of that rut of like, I'm not even sure I'm like in indie games anymore. Generally, is that they're so focused on the gamey system of the thing,
right?
And, like, doing something new with it and whatever. That like it's just kind of fascinating. There's a lot to discover that's like very different and new, and because of that focus on the kind of systems of the game, I mean, and to be clear, lots of other developers in other spaces are also doing that. But because of that focus, there can sometimes be, I'd say, too little attention put towards like, how does this game feel,
right,
or how does it look, or whatever. However, at the same time, I love that there's this kind of community where people can just experiment with ideas. They don't have to care about how it looks. They can just like, make something that looks terrible, doesn't have a narrative or anything, doesn't feel good to play. But at the very least, they've explored something interesting and potentially got to share it with other people, and they found it interesting as well.
Love that.
However, I guess the corollary to that is that, like, you know, what needs to happen more probably is a lot of these developers who are making these very lo-fi programmer art games perhaps need to start like expanding a little bit and being like, okay, so what if I did like think about like an artistic direction here or whatever. This is making me think of, there's a developer called Artless Games who made like the 14 Minesweeper variants and those kinds of games, and recently Space Caps. I love how the name of their studio is Artless Games.
Yeah, that is, at least they're straight up about it.
Exactly, they are, absolutely, it's very clear. These games are artless.
And because we're kind of almost going over an hour here, but I'm so interested. I wanted to ask you, like, maybe you share this point of view with me, or maybe this is an obvious point of view. Do you think, in terms of like commercially, maybe this is quite a big question, and critically, do you think puzzle games are overlooked?
Yes.
Yeah.
Massively.
Yeah.
Something that I sometimes think about is like, I've been to like various like industry talks and things, and one of the things that happens is somebody will put up some stats about like puzzle games being one of the biggest sectors in video games.
Who?
Yeah.
Who is that?
And it's because that's basically including
a Wordle. Is that the reason?
I wasn't even thinking of
sorry.
No, I think no, because I mean, I think it's actually more to.
Sorry.
I think it's more to do with like Bejeweled and
Candy Crush.
Yeah. Candy Crush, etc. All these kinds of games on mobile, which are huge and make a lot of revenue. And so if you like tally up the revenue of those games, it's one of the biggest sectors in the video games industry. and I don't. Is Bejeweled? Do people even play that anymore?
I don't know. I don't know.
Candy Crush, I think.
Yes, I think they do.
Yeah. And like that's just so misrepresentative of what actually happens in the kind of thinky puzzle space. Is that there's loads of amazing games being made that just don't get played at all. And that's at the same time, I think that's true in a lot of genres. Like one of the things I occasionally do for Thinky Games is I'll scroll through like new releases on Steam. And so one of the things I see is that there's a lot of people making horror games as well.
Sure.
And most of the horror games don't have any success either. Like nobody plays them. And I think there's a lot of these kind of communities of people making a certain type of game where lots of people making those kinds of games and there's only a few breakouts really. And I think that's always gonna kind of be true to some degree because there's only so much like buying power that the audience has, etc.
Attention, time,
only so much attention, time, all that kind of stuff. But I guess the main thing that bothers me is less like that there's not like more. Like not every game has to be as successful as Bad As You or as The Witness or whatever. But I would love it if more people were open-minded about some of the ones that do less well, and they might actually be very, very like interesting, brilliant, almost like potentially even some of the best games ever.
Yeah.
In my opinion, some of the best games ever, and like they've got like 30 reviews on Steam. Hopefully people who are interested in this kind of game might go like, oh, I might be missing out on some of the best games ever that I'm going to enjoy, and I should just try and play those games.
I'm hoping Blueprints might be, because I mean this year has just been ridiculous in terms. I'm hoping that might encourage people to like check out some other games in the same vein, or Blueprints could be someone else's Obra Dinn, Joe. It could be.
Absolutely.
It could be someone else's.
I think it is, and I think we help it be that because we did the thing, like the article that you put together about like similar games similar to Blueprints, and I think doing that kind of stuff makes people go, "Oh, there's like this Void Stranger, what the heck is that?" Or like whatever that they've never heard of, and then suddenly they're in this other world where if they do what I did, they basically don't need to play any other game ever again because there are enough really good puzzle games that you don't have to play anything else.
I like that sentiment. One last question, and this is a bit of a fun one. What is the most difficult puzzle game you've ever played?
Oh dear. Okay, so that actually that makes me want to talk about a particular thing, which is that there are different kinds of difficulty.
Go on, pop off. I'm here. I'm ready.
There are different kinds of difficulty. I think that's actually a very complex space to talk about. But broadly, there's a kind of difficulty that I like and a kind of difficulty I don't like.
For you personally, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. And the kind of difficulty that I don't like is when a game gets too complex, too unpredictable, and that can feel odd because like most of the games I'm playing, like there's no random chance or anything. It's just like you know exactly what the system. You should know exactly what's going to happen. But like, so okay, I'm going to pick a particular game here, and it's a brilliant game, and it has loads of great puzzles. But there are a couple of puzzles in it that I would say kind of hit this difficulty that I didn't enjoy. So this game is Railbound.
Really? Oh, the cutesy train game.
The very cutesy train game, and it's like it's a really brilliant game. I love it, and that's why I feel happy picking it as an example because I can say like it's just a couple of the puzzles in there.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a mechanic introduced later on where the trains, if they pass over a button, it can cause I guess to sort of explain. It's a game where you're like laying tracks down for trains to get to the end point, and there's usually have multiple carriages and they have to get to the end point in the right order. And so you're setting up the track to make that happen.
Very cutesy, lots of cute dogs and trains.
Yeah. Lots of cute dogs and cute trains. There's a mechanic introduced later on where if the train goes over a button, it like lowers or raises is that what it does? It does some, no, you go over the button, it lowers or raises no. What am I saying? There's a mechanic introduced later on where if you go over a button, it toggles which way a track is pointing. Like you'll have like T-junction tracks, and then it'll turn from one to the other. Now, the problem is that you have to lay out all your track in advance and then press play. And so it's really hard to know, like, from laying out the track, like, where all the trains are going to be when this button gets hit and this track changes. And now this train's going over here and it wasn't doing what you're expecting it to do. And so it basically just becomes what I would call, like, intractable or, like, chaotic in a way, where it's, like, hard to reason about. It's like what you want with a thinky game is to be able to reason about the puzzle and follow like a series of steps to get to your solution. Whereas if something gets complex like that, it can be difficult. So there's an example of some really difficult puzzles I've done, and they're in a really cutesy, approachable train
deceptive
game.
Again, it's always the cute ones that'll get you.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's true. I was about to think of Paqueret Down the Boulevard as well.
Yes.
Also very difficult and very cute.
And one that you, again, told me about recently, and I was like, this looks cute. Bunnies. And you were like, no.
That game goes places. Goes places both like narratively and in its puzzles.
So difficult in a good way.
Yeah.
Some really good, difficult puzzle games that you've played that are good. Because we don't hate here.
I mean, to be clear, those two games are amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, the go-to example is always Steven Sausage Roll, but I can't talk about Steven Sausage Roll again.
It is. Well, for me, it'd be Bad Beer As You. I feel like that is so difficult, but again, really good difficult.
Yeah. So Bad Beer As You, great example. And one of the interesting things about that game is that there's actually the ending isn't that deep into the game. You can get to the credits like fairly early, which I think is an attempt to make it a bit more approachable.
Yes,
make people feel like they finished the game and they don't have to do the rest.
Yeah, I love that. Animal Well does the same, and I've loved that. It's like here's a game for you if you like it, and also for you sickos over here. We've got 10 more hours. I like that.
But like, exactly. For if you stick with Bad Beer As You, it's extremely deep and extremely difficult.
Which I did not. I went, this is enough for me. I'm good.
Yeah. I still haven't played the expansion because they released the whole expansion, which is and there's loads of like fan made levels as well, and all sorts of stuff.
So that's a good one. That's difficult. I've not played many quote unquote like difficult puzzle games.
Super difficult.
It's just
games.
not for me.
Like Can of Wormholes, but then like I said, it has that great hint system.
Yeah, I love that.
Which lets you in a bit like more easily. So you mentioned Animal Well as well. I didn't 100% Animal Well. I gave up at like the layer 3 or 4,
me too.
Whatever they're called.
Me too. I think I was around layer 3. The one where you have to go and talk to people, and I was like, no, I'm good. I'm fine. I've had enough.
I think I might know which bit you mean. Yeah. And to me, that was kind of similar to I think each layer of that game has like a different style of puzzle.
Yes, absolutely.
And that lower level of the game is a bit more like it's really for people who just want to search everything.
Yeah.
They want to poke every corner of the game.
Completionists, almost dismantle the game, which I respect. It's just...
Yeah, and some people did literally dismantle the game.
They did. They went in the code.
Yeah, exactly.
And Billy Basso, developer, Billy Basso of Animal Well, absolutely was like, yeah, go ahead. And there was more secrets in there to be...
It's designed for that. And that's the point at which I'm like, I don't think that is my kind of puzzle. And I guess it's good that Animal Well very clearly delineates its layers. So you can just say, I've done layer 3. I don't need to go any deeper.
Like we were saying earlier, having the credits early on and being like, good, this is a good signifier that I can...
Exactly.
I can leave. I can go. I've been dismissed. So that's one for me. I'm just trying to think if there's any others. There's a lot of it on Itch as well, right? That's like a whole thing we haven't even talked about, like that aspect of game development. We'll have to have you back.
A lot of great free games on Itch. Yeah, exactly. We can just do part 2.
Yes. So before we jump into our hyperfixations, Thinky Direct. Me and Joe were hosting it. This episode, I think, is going to come out before then. But so yeah, if you love puzzle games, if you love what we talked about, watch it. It's on May 29th. And where would people be able to watch it, Joe?
They'll be able to watch it on our website. We'll have the stream on the homepage, thinkygames.com. But you can also watch on YouTube or Twitch. And it's kicking off the Cerebral Puzzle Showcase on Steam.
Yes.
So if you happen to be on the Cerebral Puzzle Showcase page while we're live, it will be there as well.
We'll be there. You'll see our faces.
There's a million different ways to watch it.
Yeah, and we've seen the lineup. It's good. We've got some great got some great ones in our bit. We've got them, which I'm very happy about. But yeah, with all that being said, let's jump into some hyperfixations. Joe, what have you brought for me? What is your thing you're obsessing over?
I was like trying to figure out what I should like bring up.
Yes.
So this isn't okay. So am I breaking the rules slightly by picking something that I'm not currently hyperfixating on, but it's like a really awesome thing that I did hyperfixate on?
Yes,
in the past?
Absolutely approved. Gavel approved. Okay.
I wanted to bring this up because it's a little bit obscure and like people probably, I don't know, maybe some random person will enjoy it. So there's a YouTube channel called Sounds Like Show.
Okay.
It's basically a panel game show. So like I'm a big fan of like panel shows. Like, Would I Lie to You?
Sure.
9 out of 10. Wait, what's it called? 9 out of 10 cats.
8 out of 10 cats.
8 out of 10 cats.
Got you.
Yeah, etc. All those kinds of panel shows. And this is a panel show that started during COVID as like a Zoom thing. And it's still not a thing. It's not on TV or anything. It's not like a TV show. They still just do it they do like live events and they post the recordings up on YouTube,
sure.
Which is where I watch them. And okay, so the concept behind the show is it's about rhyme.
Oh my God, this is stressing me out already.
And actually most of the people involved, like the people who run it and a lot of the guests that come on are like battle rappers.
Oh, Joe, this is amazing. This is the best thing I've ever heard. Oh my God.
So like I'm not like massively into rap. I enjoy some rap.
Yeah.
But I do like wordy things, and it's basically a panel show with a load of rappers on it doing like rhyming at each other and trying to like out rhyme each other. And it's so good. I love it. So they have different kinds of games, different rounds that they do with different formats and stuff. So like I think every time they always do the last round is also always a bit of a rap battle type thing.
Oh my God.
They've got to use the same rhyme scheme as each other, and then the judges just like pick the winner. But I guess the other thing that's interesting about it is that like you might think, oh, but rhyme, can it be that interesting? But the thing about rhyme in like rap and in like poetry is it's not just about how the word ends or whatever. It's like the vowel sounds in the word as well, and
I guess the cadence as well.
Exactly, in the cadence.
Oh, wow!
And so in rap, it's called a multisyllabic rhyme, where each syllable rhymes with each syllable of another word or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it helps to give an example, like Thinky Games. So I might say, okay. Thinky Games situate in the place, I don't know, little cake.
Okay, oh, I see. Okay,
Thinky Games imitates a little cake. There you go. There's an example.
You did choose quite a difficult one.
I don't think it's that difficult. I'm just not very good at it. I'm just not a rapper.
This sounds incredible. This sounds so fun. For the direct, we should have done it for the direct, Joe. We should have just done a...
We should have done a... What is it? Rhyme off.
Yeah.
We should have done a rap battle.
We should have done a rap battle. God damn. Next year.
And I guess the other thing is just really funny. I think that my favorite thing about a good panel show is like when people have to kind of improv stuff. And they're trying to come up with rhymes on the spot. And sometimes it's like incredibly impressive. It's pretty much always incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
But also sometimes it's just really funny because of the stuff people come out with. I love it.
Well, that brings us to the end. Joe, thank you so much for joining me and talking to me about puzzle games. And yes, I will link everything that you do below. Especially, your YouTube channel was so good. I remember when I first joined and you were like, I've got a YouTube channel, and I was watching it and I was like, it's very relaxing. I find you very relaxing to watch. You're just like...
It's basically ASMR.
Yeah, you're just like, and then, I could do this. Oh, of course. And I'm like, this is so relaxing.
It is 100% like that.
So good. And yeah, I mean, thinkygames.com. Check us out, please. We're doing a lot of really good work over there. Yeah. But yeah, thanks, Joe. And for everyone else, we'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Indieventure is a video games podcast created, produced, hosted and edited by Rachel Watts, Rebecca Jones and me, Liam Richardson. For more information, including a list of every game we mentioned in this episode, make sure to check out our website, indieventurepodcast.co.uk. You can get in touch by sending your questions, comments and feedback to contact@indieventurepodcast.co.uk. You can support the show by rating us 5 stars and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcast provider of choice. Some of the games we talk about on the show may have been provided to us for free for review consideration. Our intro music and stings were composed for us by Ollie Newbury. Check the episode description to hear more of his excellent tunes. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks for another episode of Indieventure. Bye for now.